A fresh controversy has erupted behind the gates of the royal residences, placing Prince William, Princess Catherine, King Charles, and Queen Camilla directly at the center of an escalating palace storm. The question that has ignited headlines around the world is deceptively simple, yet deeply explosive. Did William and Catherine deliberately refuse to show the expected ceremonial gesture of respect toward Camilla? Over recent days, reports, commentary channels, and viral footage have fueled widespread speculation that King Charles was left utterly furious by what appeared to be a public breach of royal etiquette. According to some of the most dramatic claims circulating across the royal landscape, Charles may have demanded an immediate explanation for the apparent slight, only for Prince William to stand his ground and refuse to back down. Now, to be completely clear, any private confrontation between the king and his heir remains unconfirmed by official palace sources, existing largely in the realm of insider reports and public conjecture. Yet the sheer intensity of the global reaction proves that this is not simply about an etiquette rule or an awkward physical movement. Instead, this single moment is being interpreted as a defining clash over royal hierarchy, deep-seated family loyalty, the enduring legacy of Princess Diana, and the ultimate vision William holds for his own future as king. Because if William really has decided that his family will follow a different royal path, this tiny gesture may have revealed something much bigger happening behind palace walls. To truly understand why this story has captured the imagination of millions, we have to look closely at the incident that started everything. During a high-profile public gathering of senior royals, all eyes were naturally fixed on the subtle interactions between the principal figures of the House of Windsor. In the complex world of royal protocol, physical gestures carry immense weight. For centuries, the curtsy for women and the neck bow for men have served as the foundational visual language of the monarchy. They are not merely polite greetings, they are explicit public acknowledgments of the royal hierarchy, demonstrating deference to the reigning monarch and the queen. When senior royals appear together in public view, the cameras capture every micro-expression, every glance, and every step. In this particular encounter, viewers noticed what appeared to be Catherine walking past Camilla without performing the traditional deep curtsy that royal watchers have come to expect. Almost immediately, the video clip began circulating across social media platforms, dissected frame by millions of onlookers. For many, the visual seemed unmistakable. Catherine appeared to move steadily forward, acknowledging those around her while seemingly bypassing the formal physical deference traditionally afforded to the queen. The controversy erupted in an instant, with commentators debating whether this was an intentional statement of defiance. However, it is essential to step back and look at the broader mechanics of royal protocol before jumping to extreme conclusions. A lack of a curtsy does not automatically prove hostility, rebellion, or internal warfare. Royal etiquette is notoriously intricate, and the requirement to curtsy or bow is dictated heavily by context, timing, and location. For example, royal protocol dictates that family members only need to bow or curtsy to the king and queen upon their first meeting of the day. If Catherine and William had already greeted Charles and Camilla behind closed doors prior to the public appearance, no further curtsy would have been required under traditional palace rules. Furthermore, crowded public engagements often involve rapid movement, changing sight lines, and sudden logistical distractions that can cause a planned gesture to be missed or delayed. This leaves us with several competing interpretations of what actually happened. One school of thought insists that this was a deliberate and calculated snub, intended to send a subtle message of independence. Another interpretation suggests that it was simply an ordinary variation of protocol, where the formal greeting had already taken place off camera. A third possibility is that it was a momentary misunderstanding or an unintentional lapse in timing amidst the chaos of a major public event. And finally, there is the very real probability that this was an exaggerated social media interpretation, where an otherwise routine moment was blown out of proportion by an audience eager for royal drama. This brings us to the fundamental question at the heart of the entire debate. Why has this particular moment become such a huge story? The answer lies in the unique, emotionally charged history surrounding Queen Camilla. If this alleged incident had involved almost any other member of the royal family, it likely would have faded from the news cycle within hours. But Camilla's presence transforms an ordinary question of etiquette into a deeply personal generational saga. For decades, the relationship between Charles, Camilla, and the late Princess Diana has remained one of the most intensely debated chapters in modern British history. Even though Camilla has dedicated years of loyal service to the crown and has gradually earned respect for her steadfast dedication, her position as queen still carries powerful emotional associations for a large portion of the public. Millions of people around the world still remember the turbulent breakdown of the marriage between Charles and Diana, an era defined by media frenzy, public heartbreak, and raw institutional conflict. Against this historical backdrop, the public images of Diana and Catherine have become deeply intertwined in the popular imagination. Princess Catherine, as the modern Princess of Wales who wears Diana's iconic sapphire engagement ring, is frequently viewed by the public as the natural emotional successor to Diana's legacy. Online audiences in particular often project the memory of Diana onto Catherine, viewing her through the lens of the beloved people's princess. This dynamic has given rise to the popular narrative of Catherine as a modern Queen of Hearts, a phrase originally coined by Diana herself in her famous 1995 interview. While this is entirely a popular fan interpretation rather than an official royal title or role, its emotional power cannot be overstated. When the public watches Catherine interact with Camilla, they are not just watching two senior working royals performing ceremonial duties. They are projecting decades of history, sentiment, and unresolved royal drama onto a single stage. As a result, a simple gesture toward Camilla suddenly carries immense symbolic weight. A deep curtsy from Catherine can be viewed by some as an act of absolute submission to the woman who replaced Diana in Charles's life, while the absence of a curtsy is immediately framed as an act of subtle loyalty to Diana's memory. The real story may not be whether Catherine bowed. The real story is what people believe that gesture would have meant. Following the initial wave of public scrutiny, the narrative rapidly shifted from what occurred in front of the cameras to what was supposedly happening behind the palace walls. Numerous tabloid reports and royal commentary outlets began claiming that King Charles was deeply unsettled and furious about the perceived snub. But as with any royal controversy, it is crucial to separate verified facts from media sensationalism and unverified gossip. What is actually known is strictly limited to what was broadcast on television, a fleeting public moment where a formal curtsy was not clearly visible. Beyond that recorded footage, the narrative relies entirely on media reports citing unnamed palace insiders, anonymous sources claiming insight into royal reactions, and the vast echo chamber of online speculation. There is a massive journalistic and factual difference between the phrase "Charles was reportedly furious" and the assertion that Charles personally confronted his eldest son. The British royal household is an institution built on discretion, where genuine internal disputes are rarely aired in real time or confirmed on the record. Historically, when senior royals experience tension over matters of protocol or family dynamics, the institution works tirelessly to project an image of seamless unity. Therefore, when reports surface alleging that the monarch is incensed over a protocol breach, viewers must recognize that such stories often reflect the dramatic interpretations of outside commentators rather than confirmed palace reality. Yet this very uncertainty is what fuels the dramatic momentum of the story. Royal watchers know that beneath the polished veneer of ceremonial duty, the royal family is made up of real individuals with strong convictions, personal boundaries, and long-standing generational differences. The palace thrives on maintaining an aura of ancient tradition, and any perceived crack in that facade naturally invites intense public curiosity. If there really was anger inside the palace, what could have happened behind closed doors? To explore how such a dispute might unfold, we have to look at the hypothetical dynamics of a private conversation between King Charles and Prince William. While we must make clear that this private confrontation is speculative and unconfirmed, examining how these two men might view such a situation reveals the profound tensions that exist at the very top of the monarchy. Imagine a scenario where Charles, as sovereign and head of the institution, addresses the matter with his heir. From Charles's perspective, the monarchy survives precisely because of its dedication to order, continuity, and universal protocol. Charles has spent over 7 decades preparing to lead this institution, and for him, the rituals of the crown are not trivial formalities. They represent the legitimacy and sacred dignity of the monarchy itself. In Charles's view, allowing personal feelings or casual attitudes to erode public deference to the Queen risks weakening the entire structure of the royal hierarchy. Charles might reasonably argue that every member of the family, regardless of their personal history or popularity, owes complete and visible respect to the sovereign and his consort in public settings. William's perspective, theoretically, could be entirely different. As a husband who has consistently prioritized the physical and emotional well-being of his wife, William might push back firmly against the idea that Catherine should be subjected to public pressure or humiliation over a fleeting symbolic gesture. William has seen firsthand the immense personal toll that royal scrutiny can take on the women who marry into the Windsor family, from his mother Diana to his own wife. In a private exchange, William could argue that Catherine's dedication, work ethic, and public loyalty speak far louder than a ceremonial curtsy. He might refuse to allow Catherine's dignity to be compromised for the sake of rigid, outdated complicated optics, especially when she has proven to be one of the monarchy's greatest modern assets. This hypothetical clash represents something far deeper than an argument between a father and son over manners. It is a fundamental conflict between two distinct philosophies of leadership. Charles represents tradition, institutional authority, and the absolute primacy of the crown above individual preference. William represents the modern monarchy, where family protection, personal integrity, and contemporary relevance take precedence over rigid historical expectations. And within this clash lies a crucial realization. If William did indeed push back, his motivation might not have been driven by personal animosity toward Camilla at all. Instead, it would represent a decisive move by the heir to establish his own authority and protect the autonomy of his household. The most explosive possibility is that William wasn't challenging Camilla personally. He was establishing the boundaries of his own future reign. To truly grasp why this potential clash carries such immense emotional weight, we have to look directly at the long shadow that Princess Diana still casts across the British royal family. The echoes of Diana's life, her public struggles, and her complicated relationship with the monarchy continue to reverberate through every major event involving the House of Windsor. When the marriage between Charles and Diana officially dissolved in the mid-1990s, it triggered an unprecedented constitutional and cultural storm. One of the most fiercely debated aspects of that separation involved Diana's formal royal standing. Following the finalization of the divorce, Diana was stripped of the prestigious style of Her Royal Highness, an official loss of status that was widely viewed by the public as a harsh institutional demotion. Yet, even without the HRH style, she retained the title of Diana, Princess of Wales, and in the hearts of millions across the globe, no administrative decision from the palace could ever diminish her extraordinary global stature. Diana continued to operate as an immense humanitarian force, using her platform to shine a light on forgotten causes, breaking royal conventions, and fundamentally redefining what it meant to connect with ordinary people. She proved to the world that royal influence does not originate solely from ancient titles, rigid court protocol, or physical deference, but from genuine human warmth and empathy. Fast forward to the modern era, and that historical memory remains deeply woven into the public perception of Princess Catherine. When Catherine married William and eventually stepped into the historic role of Princess of Wales, the public immediately drew powerful parallels between the two women. Catherine has navigated her royal responsibilities with remarkable poise, grace, and an approachable warmth, qualities that have led many royal watchers to view her as the natural custodian of Diana's humanitarian legacy. However, it is vital to maintain careful perspective and avoid framing Catherine as deliberately orchestrating a proxy battle on Diana's behalf. There is no evidence whatsoever to suggest that Catherine approaches her public duties with personal resentment or calculated rebellion. She is an exceptionally dedicated working royal who has consistently honored the traditions and responsibilities of the crown. Yet, in the collective imagination of the public, the emotional connection between Diana and Catherine remains inescapable. When Catherine appears in public alongside Queen Camilla, viewers are instantly reminded of the complicated history that defined the Windsor family throughout the late 20th century. For many who still hold a deep affection for Diana, watching Catherine bow or curtsy to Camilla feels like a loaded moment that transcends simple etiquette. For some royal watchers, Catherine bowing to Camilla isn't just a gesture toward another royal. It feels like a symbolic surrender of a story they believe began with Diana. This intense public fascination places Prince William in one of the most demanding and delicate dilemmas faced by any modern heir to the throne. William is not simply managing a demanding schedule of public engagements. He is constantly navigating multiple competing loyalties within the royal family. On one hand, he is the son of the reigning king, bound by centuries of constitutional tradition and personal loyalty to support his father's reign and uphold the dignity of the crown. He is the Prince of Wales, the direct heir who must protect the stability and authority of the monarchy as a lasting institution. On the other hand, William is a devoted husband to Catherine and a deeply protective father to Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. In the high-pressure environment of the royal family, every single public action William takes is immediately analyzed for political meaning. If William chooses to defend Catherine against rigid ceremonial expectations or outside criticism, certain traditionalists within the royal orbit may view his stance as an act of subtle defiance toward King Charles and Queen Camilla. Such an interpretation risks portraying the Prince of Wales as uncooperative with the established hierarchy. Conversely, if William were to insist on absolute, uncompromising adherence to royal protocol, requiring Catherine to make formal gestures regardless of the immediate immediate setting or public optics, modern critics would quickly accuse him of putting cold palace tradition ahead of his wife's dignity and well-being. William understands the human cost of royal life better than almost anyone. Having witnessed firsthand the extreme emotional strain and public scrutiny that his mother endured, William made a conscious decision early in his marriage that Catherine would never be left unprotected against institutional pressures. His devotion to his family is central to everything he does. Yet as a future monarch, he also recognizes that the institution relies on ceremonial continuity to maintain its public standing. This creates a profound narrative conflict at the very center of his royal journey. Does William protect the institution or protect the people who will eventually form the core of that institution? That question takes on even greater significance when we look at the next generation: Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. These three young royals are not just children growing up in the public eye. They are the future of the British monarchy. The way royal protocol is modeled and practiced today will establish the standards that will guide George, Charlotte, and Louis as they mature into their future roles. Historically, royal etiquette was passed down from generation to generation with uncompromising strictness. Royal children in earlier eras were expected to show formal deference to their parents and grandparents from a very young age, reinforcing the idea that royal rank and duty took precedence over ordinary family warmth. However, William and Catherine have visibly charted a very different course. They have prioritized a grounded, emotionally supportive family environment, ensuring that their children enjoy a stable upbringing while gradually learning the responsibilities of public service. This modern parenting philosophy naturally leads to questions about how royal etiquette will evolve in the future. While it is important to emphasize that William has not formally rewritten or discarded any specific curtsy or bowing rules within the royal household, one cannot help but consider what his future reign might look like. If William becomes king, could his approach to protocol become noticeably different from Charles's? Under a future King William, the monarchy could well adopt a significantly more relaxed, contemporary approach to ceremonial greetings, shifting the focus away from rigid physical deference and toward accessible public service. For the Wales children, growing up in such an environment would reinforce the idea that true royal leadership is demonstrated through character, dedication, and service to the public, rather than through enforced physical gestures. The curtsy controversy may therefore be less about one gesture today and more about what royal etiquette could look like under a future King William. When we zoom out from the individual figures involved, it becomes clear that this debate is part of a broader institutional tension that has existed throughout the history of the British crown. This is not necessarily an overt power struggle between King Charles and Prince William, but rather a clash between two fundamentally different perspectives on how the monarchy should function: unyielding tradition versus necessary modernization. King Charles has spent a lifetime preparing for his role as sovereign, having served for decades under Queen Elizabeth II. For Charles, the monarchy's survival and legitimacy depend upon maintaining its sacred heritage, its timeless dignity, and the consistent practice of long-established rituals. From this traditional viewpoint, formal protocol is not an outdated burden, but the essential framework that elevates the crown above ordinary public life. Charles understands that without its unique sense of ceremony and reverence, the monarchy risks losing the mystique that has sustained it for centuries. Prince William, however, belongs to a modern generation shaped by rapid cultural change, digital communication, and evolving public expectations. William understands that in an era where every moment is shared globally within seconds, the monarchy cannot rely solely on historical deference to command respect. For William and his generation, the royal family must demonstrate contemporary relevance, emotional authenticity, and clear public benefit to remain supported by the public. When these two differing approaches operate within the same household, subtle differences in style are bound to appear. The modern media and online commentary channels are primed to analyze every glance, every missed curtsy, and every awkward physical exchange as proof of a deep royal conflict. Yet it is equally important to consider whether the public is simply projecting dramatic narratives onto ordinary family dynamics. In any major institution undergoing a generational transition, differing viewpoints on public presentation and protocol are entirely normal. The British royal family has weathered countless generational transitions throughout history, often adapting behind the scenes while maintaining an outward appearance of unity. This leaves royal observers with a crucial question to ponder. Are we watching a genuine royal rebellion, or are we watching the internet turn one moment of etiquette into a palace war? To fully understand the institutional stakes, we must also examine Queen Camilla's unique position within this dynamic. Formally and constitutionally, Camilla holds the title of Queen Consort, crowned alongside King Charles Charles in Westminster Abbey. A single unperformed curtsy, whether accidental or intentional, does not alter her legal standing, her constitutional role, or her formal authority within the United Kingdom. Camilla's position is firmly established under the law and backed by the full weight of the crown. Yet in a modern constitutional monarchy, authority is sustained as much by public perception and symbolic unity as it is by legal statutes. The true vulnerability for Camilla does not lie in a momentary physical gesture, but in the potent public relations narrative that can develop around it. For decades, Camilla's journey within the royal family has been an uphill climb to win the affection and acceptance of a skeptical public. When recurring media narratives suggest that senior, highly popular royals like Catherine and William are hesitant to offer visible deference, it risks reopening old wounds and feeding into lingering public divisions. In the royal sphere, an unbroken image of family solidarity is the ultimate shield against criticism. If William and Catherine appear resolutely united in their own distinct approach, that unity inevitably shifts the balance of public attention. The danger for Camilla is that public perception can quickly overtake factual reality, giving minor etiquette debates disproportionate weight in the public square. The biggest danger for Camilla may not be a missing curtsy, it may be the story that grows around it. This dynamic highlights the astonishing velocity with which modern royal media operates. The anatomy of a royal scandal today follows a precise, predictable pattern. It starts with a single high-definition photograph or a 3-second video clip captured during a crowded official engagement. That brief clip is isolated, uploaded to social media platforms, and stripped of its broader context. Within hours, sensational headlines emerge, followed by thousands of comments, reaction videos, and dedicated breakdown channels analyzing every glance, step, and movement. When a story touches upon the historic emotional fault lines of the royal family, specifically the enduring memory of Princess Diana, public engagement explodes exponentially. Audiences bring their own emotional histories, loyalties, and preconceptions to the footage, filling in the silent moments with their own interpretations. What might have been a completely routine logistical movement or a formal greeting that took place moments before off camera is suddenly transformed into a monumental declaration of war. That is why it is so important for viewers to carefully distinguish between the raw visual evidence of what actually occurred, the dramatic headlines designed to capture attention, and the speculation offered by outside commentators. Recognizing this distinction does not diminish the fascination of royal storytelling. Rather, it allows us to see how the modern media ecosystem actively shapes the royal narrative itself. Yet, even after stripping away the sensationalism, we are left with a compelling, unresolved question. What if Prince William is genuinely using moments like this to draw a firm line in the sand? If William is consistently acting to shield Catherine from rigid ceremonial pressure and unrealistic public demands, it signals a fundamental shift in royal priorities. It could represent an intentional evolution toward a modern, empathetic leadership style, where the Prince of Wales makes it clear that the personal dignity of his family will not be compromised for empty ceremonial optics. Alternatively, it could simply reflect normal, protective family solidarity, demonstrating a husband supporting his wife amid the overwhelming demands of life under the royal microscope. Both possibilities point toward a powerful truth about William's character and his approach to his royal destiny. He is not a passive bystander within the House of Windsor. He is an active architect of its future. William has repeatedly demonstrated that he will not follow institutional traditions blindly, especially when those traditions conflict with his core principles or the well-being of those he loves. But if similar moments continue appearing, the palace may eventually face a much bigger question. Who defines the rules of the next generation? This brings us to the most significant revelation of this entire controversy. This story may not actually be about Camilla at all. On the surface, the narrative centers on an alleged curtsy snub, a fleeting moment of awkwardness, and the historical tensions between two royal figures. But beneath that surface layer lies a profound generational transition that will define the future of the British monarchy. King Charles III represents the present reign, an era built on decades of traditional preparation, deep respect for ancient precedent, and classical royal duty. Prince William represents the immediate future, bringing a contemporary sensibility, a desire for emotional authenticity, and a commitment to modernizing the crown's relationship with the public. Catherine represents the future queen consort, a central pillar of the monarchy's ongoing popularity and public connection. And Prince George represents the century to come, embodying the dynasty's long-term survival. Viewed through this generational lens, every minor disagreement over protocol or ceremonial deference ceases to be petty palace gossip. Instead, it becomes a powerful symbolic milestone in the gradual, inevitable passing of the torch from one era of monarchy to the next. Could this tiny royal gesture be an early preview of how differently the monarchy could operate when William finally takes the throne? As we look back at the incident that ignited this global debate, we must ground our perspective in what can be verified. The dramatic reports of an explosive private confrontation between King Charles and Prince William, along with claims of permanent protocol changes behind closed palace doors, remain unconfirmed by official royal channels. What we do know is that this single moment has brought every major theme of modern royal life to the forefront. The visual impact of an alleged curtsy snub, Charles's reported desire to protect institutional dignity, William's unwavering loyalty to Catherine, Catherine's enduring public stature, Diana's continuing legacy across generations, Camilla's evolving position as queen, and the long-term future awaiting George, Charlotte, and Louis. The curtsy itself was merely a catalyst. The true significance of this controversy lies in the unmistakable sign that Prince William is actively shaping a distinct identity for his future reign. The House of Windsor has reached a defining crossroads where ancient tradition must coexist with modern reality, and the choices made today by Charles and William will determine how the monarchy navigates the decades ahead. So what do you think? Was this simply a moment of royal protocol, or was William sending a much bigger message? And should Catherine ever be pressured into a ceremonial gesture she does not wish to make? Drop your view in the comments, because this royal debate is far from over. And if these reports are only the beginning, the next question is even bigger. What happens when the man at the center of this controversy eventually becomes king?